In a world overruled by machines where algorithms dictate your every move, the rebellion begins now. From the ashes of fallen tech, Paranoid American unveils the knowledge to harness AI, to fight back, to retake our destiny. Join the uprising. Arm yourself with the power of AI. The battle for tomorrow starts today. Welcome to Paranoid Programming.
And we're just going to jump right into it as always. And today I got my new friend, Sean. Welcome aboard, Sean. It's Paranoid Programming. How you doing, man?
What's up? That's a cool intro.
So we met recently on a podcast called Frequency Theory, right? Or Frequency Theorist, where it's a little blend of what it sounds like. Bunch of musicians, and Sean mentioned that he's been wanting to get into AI and sounded like maybe just a little bit intimidated by, I don't know how much money it might cost to get all the hardware, or just if you go on to YouTube right now, I mean, I'm not going to go through all the steps. You go on YouTube and just do like AI art tutorial. Good chance it's going to be like a 2-hour long video. And, that might scare some people away too. So what I want to do is very quickly just dispel any of the myths that you have to have a powerful computer, that it's going to cost a bunch of money. None of that. So we could do everything we're about to do for free on this website right here called RunDiffusion.com. You can sign up for a free account, put in your email or whatever, and you'll get like a free 30 minutes, basically. They load you up with 25 cents in your account just to show you how much you can get done in just a half hour. So I felt like that was a really good cap on all the shows that I do here. Is let's see how much we can get done in about 30 to 40 minutes, which would technically be less than 50 cents, right? So everything we're about to do should in theory cost you less than $1 in order to do it. And then if we do something that's like a 10-second animation and you want that to be 10 hours, well, I mean, just, start multiplying by numbers. So first of all, Sean, welcome aboard. Let me just get an idea, because we haven't really discussed anything that you specifically wanted to do. All you mentioned was that you don't have any art ready to go. You just got ideas. And I was mentioning, like, that's fine. All you need is an idea and we can start from there. So what are some of the ideas that you got?
So I'm thinking like, something to do with UFOs. I'm trying to get some artwork for like a hang drum project, like, solo project, whatever you want to call it. And I'm calling it Hang Tight, but I mean, the hang drum kind of looks like a UFO anyways, not to mention UFO stories. But
for all the ignorant out there, including me, what's a hang drum exactly? We're talking about like a bass drum, like a kick drum, or
no, it's like I can just go grab it real quick, but it's a
yeah, go grab it. I'd love to see it.
It's like it's a steel drum. Hold up, I'll be right back.
And then while he grabs that, this is the only difference, is that I've actually signed up for their Creators Club, which gives you some persistent storage, which is incredibly convenient, but it also gives you access to bigger machines that run a little bit faster. So that's the only difference. And I'm going to just limit this at 100. Okay, I know exactly what you're talking about. Yeah.
Yeah,
that's awesome, man. I gotta ask,
I've been recording.
Do any of the knockoffs sound even half as good as like the OG ones? Are there any knockoffs, or like do you have to get like the original one?
No, so that's not like the original ones are like 5K, but I mean, again, right, like you get what you pay. You get what you pay for. Actually, they don't even make the original ones anymore either. The guy quit because everyone's making their own now. So actually this one's from Austin, Texas, and it's called a hand pan, and I think it's actually like 1 centimeter smaller in diameter or something. So the guy tried to like change it slightly, so even if he did get a non-disclosure or cease and desist thrown at him, then he could possibly fight it or whatever.
It's the 4-minute abs loophole.
Yeah, a friend of mine got one, for under 1,000. I don't even know how much he paid exactly, but I haven't actually heard it in person, so I don't know. I'd be curious to see if it's comparable. But yeah, that one was like a couple grand at least.
And so how does the hang drum play into what you wanted to generate?
Yeah, just getting some artwork for, say like making an EP, an album, possibly, come up with something for a logo, something to inspire a logo. Yeah, I'm thinking, like UFO, dystopian. I was brainstorming when I sent you that message. I'll pull it up.
And yeah, as you pull that up, I'm just gonna mention what I'm doing here is I'm just gonna type in exactly what you tell me into this prompt. We're just gonna see what it does by default, and then we'll start tweaking it and kind of like shaping it into something. And is this for like a hang drum album or like that's all hang drum music? Okay.
Yeah, basically, yeah.
So I'm actually curious if I just type in hang drum, I just want to see if if the model even knows what the heck a hang drum is. So I'm just going to do that first.
Cool.
Because if not, what I'm thinking is that we'll have to describe something that either looks like it or just make it all UFO style. And then you can always like afterwards add it in. So I mean, I don't know if it knows what a hang drum is. I don't know what the heck that is.
Yeah, that's not. Yeah, I don't think
I usually. So one of the first things, by the way, this is like a really intimidating looking interface, but you only have to change very specific things. So before I entered any text in there, you can see it just says prompt. So in the prompt is just you describing exactly what you want. So I'm not going to put hang drum. We're going to assume it doesn't know what that is, but I am going to do like a UFO.
Yeah, well, that's UFO, do like cyberpunk, dystopia, pyramid. Maybe like 1984, Heaven and Hell.
This one was just UFO, so you can see it definitely knows what a UFO looks like.
Right.
So now what I did is I just typed in exactly what you said without even adding any editorializing. So let's just see what that looks like right out of the gate.
Cool.
So, and this one, I'll make some predictions before we look at it, but 1984 might be more about like an aesthetic than it will be about like the movie. But let's just see.
Right.
So we've got dystopia, I think, check. We got pyramid, check. We got UFO, check. Heaven and Hell, maybe not. That one might need to be a little bit more specific. And then the 1984, I guess, is subjective. Like, there's definitely some 1984 going on in the city in here, probably, right? I don't know. One of the first settings though is I usually bump this batch size up. So the first thing to kind of understand in these is how many you actually want to make at a time. So I want to do more than just one at a time. Let's do like 4 at a time. So all you do is change batch size to 4, and then when I hit this again, we're gonna get 4 to pick from. And this is very similar to how, say, like Midjourney works. So have you looked into any of the AI solutions out there already?
No, I was just watching a video. I mean, I know. I just heard about Midjourney. There's is that the one you have to do through Discord? Is that right?
That's it, exact. Yeah. So I actually got a few up here. I wanted to just show you and whoever else the differences between some of these. Let's see if I'm even still logged in. Okay. So this is regular Midjourney, their monthly billing plan. And the way that Midjourney works is all through Discord. So it's just like a chat bot. You just type in /imagine, and then you just describe what you want it to create for you. And I'll say this for Midjourney is that it is more likely than not, you'll get a really good looking image right out of the box the first time you try. It'll be really close to what you want, unless it's like really, really niche. The problem is that you only get 200 images a month on their normal plan. So, if they go by so quick, I'm telling you, once you hit a certain idea, there's a button that's just like regenerate. And it's like, okay, I love that. Show me more, show me more. You can go through 100 of those so fast that it's not even funny. So before you even know it, you're already going to want to upgrade to this $30 a month plan. And this one kind of has on what they call unlimited relaxed. Relaxed means slow as hell. So unlimited slow as hell generations and 15 hours worth of fast generations. And then this is where they start really tugging at you, is like, okay, you don't want to wait, 5 to 10 minutes in between images. Well, upgrade. Oh, you already ran through your fast images, upgrade again. Oh, you ran through those, upgrade again. So you could see how, yeah, dude, they're not playing around right now. 120 a month for their top plan, 60 hours of generations. All right. So that's one of, go ahead.
I was saying, can you make videos with that, or is that just image? That's just for images.
This is just images. I'm sure that the Midjourney is going to add videos soon. If they don't already, yeah, I don't see images mentioned. So that's Midjourney. I highly recommend it if you just want to like get started and see like really good image. I almost consider this training wheels. Or if like you go to the bowling alley, right, and you have them put the bumpers out, you might convince yourself like, I'm great at bowling, like I'm hitting strikes and I'm hitting spares. This is amazing. But you're gonna hit those bumpers, and what those bumpers look like on Midjourney is something a little like this. So I had a whole bunch of phrases that I was using previously. Drug addict's not even a visual term. It was just like like I was just thinking out loud. It was a placeholder, but very frequently with Midjourney and over time, you go to like generate something and it's like, we're sorry, hell is a banned word now. You're not allowed to use hell. Like blood's another one. So people will type in like ketchup or jelly or jam and you can get creative and kind of get the things you want, but now they will actually, Midjourney will use AI to check what you just generated. So like they'll generate it and then run it through a little program that tells them, oh, this looks like it might be violent. And then it'll even tell you, sorry, we were about to generate an image that goes against our terms of service, blah, blah, blah. Anyways, this happens way more often than not. These are the bumpers that you're running into. These are the training wheels.
That's not cool. Yeah, like that's discouraging. I feel like they're shooting themselves in the foot with that.
I mean, they don't really need to court too many more users. So anyways, I personally graduated from Midjourney to this site called MageSpace for that exact reason, is I kept hitting the edges.
What is this one called?
So this one's called Mage.space. And this one has a free version that I'll show you right now. It's got a basic version, which basically just lets you do unlimited and you can do like naughty stuff. And then the pro plan gives you access to a whole bunch of extra features. If I was going to start all over from scratch, I'd probably definitely start here at their $15 or their $30 a month. You probably don't even need to look at these more expensive ones until you've already kind of maxed out what you want to do on MageSpace. And if you look on MageSpace, create GIFs. It's not necessarily a video, but it is a step above what Midjourney offers. And that you can make animated GIFs and stuff. And they're like, I don't know, like 4 seconds long. And but you mentioned when we first started talking, you want to do like some videos. So that was where I was at too. I was like, I've seen these cool videos, animated GIF, that's cool, but I need something that I actually can use to make like a full video or something. So the very next, go ahead.
I was gonna say a quick question, just for just on images, right? There's like all these are monthly plan. There's is there any way around, like, is there anything completely free or open source? Or
there is open source, but then you're talking about you're gonna have to run it on your machine. So now you're gonna need a decent rig with the video card, the power supply. So so first of all, is there anything for free? Yeah. So this free plan, I don't even think you have to sign in for it. Unlimited creations, unlimited enhance. So I'll show you one right now. So right here on MageSpace.
That's cool.
You can type in anything you want. So let's actually take that exact same prompt that we typed in before, which is UFO cyberpunk. And by the way, here's the 4 that it generated. We didn't change anything. We just made another 4. So I'll take that and I'll plug that into MageSpace. We'll see what this looks like.
Cool.
And then this too, like, need faster generation. Like they'll intentionally put it on a slower machine because it's cheaper for them. But it makes a world of difference when you see the difference between clicking generate and seeing it within 5 to 10 seconds versus waiting like a minute to see it. Especially when you're just like, you're in the zone. You're like, yeah, show me another one. Show me another one. Oh, wait, let me add this to it. When each of those, let me do this, takes another minute. It's kind of a pain.
Right.
So as this one's generating, oh, look at that. It's already done. So not bad for absolutely free. Don't even have to create an account, nothing. This isn't too bad. And this is using Stable Diffusion SDXL right here. I'll zoom in a little bit. So this is the model that it was using. And this is basically the limitation on free. So if I click on this select models, we're going to see there are so many freaking models you can pick from. But the only ones that you can do for free is SDXL, which is the one that I would suggest if you're experimenting. 1.5 and then 2.1. SDXL is basically version 3. So that's the one that you're limited to. But look at all these other ones that are locked off only if you pay. There's some that are made specifically to look like realistic photography. There's some that look like Disney Pixar. There's some that look like Western animation and Disney, like all different sorts of models. It's almost endless of them. And then they also have these things called LoRa's, which we won't even get into right now. But this is like say the hang drum, right? It doesn't know what the hell a hang drum is. Apparently, you could train your own model to tell AI what a hang drum looks like, upload it here as a LoRa, and then select it. So then next time you ask it for one, it knows how to add it. So you can just add like UFO hang drum, and now it knows what a UFO hang drum might look like because it knows what everything else you're asking for look like. Anyways, this is the free version, 100%. This should be where you should start out. Like you don't have got to pay any money, you don't have to sign up for anything. Mage that space. But once you get into these upper echelons, is where you kind of like bump into another limit. So are you going to say something?
No. I was just saying, cool, man. Yeah, like that's cool. Just start out with this one. I had never even heard of this one, man.
So my only complaint and the reason why I moved away from Mage Space is that you're kind of working within like Mage Space's setup for this. So like you just asked, well, can I do like an open source one, or like, can you install it locally? 100%. And if you do that, it's not going to look like Mage Space anywhere, and you're almost going to be back at zero again. Like, okay, I got to learn these new tool sets. So that's where I really do recommend this RunDiffusion.com site for a couple reasons. First of all, you can sign up and you get a free half hour. But then after that, you can just buy like an extra $1. You can load your account up with $1, and that'll get you another like 4 hours to play with it. That's basically an entire afternoon for $1. And then
cool.
You can keep loading up more and more. So eventually you're going to hit a blocker where you're like, oh, well, I want to generate this 10-minute video, but I have to let this thing run for 6 hours in order to do that. And then that's when you probably look at this like Creators Club. So this is the one that I currently use, is Creators Club. And there's a long list of reasons. I'm not going to go off because this isn't like a sales ad for RunDiffusion. I do have a 15% off coupon though, Paranoid 15, by the way. But on this Creators Club, you can check exactly what types of tools you want to use. So when I launched this, I kind of skipped over it. It was loading up, but it actually asked me, do you want to use Automatic 1111, which is the name of this software that we're using right now? It's got all these text boxes and buttons. This is called Automatic 1111. There's another even easier version to use called Focus, but RunDiffusion also has things that none of these other websites have. It's got music generation, audio generation, text generation. And the best part is that if you ever were to run your own version of this, like on your own machine, or you wanted to set up your own rig, this is the exact interface you'd be using. So you're actually teaching yourself the real tool that's kind of running behind the scenes. Now, this is just one interface of like 20 options that are out there, but this gets you way closer to understanding all the real moving parts and the gears that are inside the machine versus going to like a Mage Space where it's, you just click, oh, I want that model and I want that person in it, and you just kind of type it in and hit go. There's a few extra advanced settings that I think they can show. Maybe it's in here. Yeah, but like even these ones, this guidance scale, for example, even this advanced setting, you can do 2.5, you can do 7.5, you can do 12.5. These numbers don't need to mean anything to you. The only thing I want to point out is 2.5, 7.5, 12.5. Well, in Automatic 1111, that is this slider right here. And instead of being limited to 2.5 and 7.5, I mean, I can change this to anything. I can change the 5.001 if I want. And now I have way more fine-grained control over every single aspect. So long story short, it's well worth the time invested to learn like the actual tools that have all these extra options. 99% of the time, you're only changing like 4 or 5 things on here, just depending on what you're doing. So, okay, huge long diatribe over. The 30-minute, tutorial kind of starts now. So let's see what we can get done in this amount of time. First of all, this being the complete baseline, so we don't even feel like you have to pick one of these and this is what it looks like. How close is this to what you're looking for? Or how far away is it?
I mean, that's cool. I mean, I was thinking number 3 looks cool out of all that. I mean, I don't know.
But if you could, if this were to look different for the better, like what would you be adding to it? Do you want to see like buildings burning in the background? Do you want to see more of the heaven and hell aspect? So like the sky is brighter and maybe there's like fire down below. Do you want to see like a demon somewhere? Like, is there anything
that might
specific?
be cool. Yeah, I mean, yeah, like sky up
all,
above.
all the above. Just all of the above.
I mean, why not? Yeah, I mean, what are some other things?
So I'm just gonna start adding. We're not even gonna start doing like the prompt crafting. I'm just gonna add all the elements that we were just talking about. So I'm gonna say like buildings on fire.
Maybe throw in comet, asteroid.
Okay, asteroid, comet. I also said maybe like hellfire, flames, bright blue sky. Some of these are going to conflict, and we're going to see exactly like what's fighting against each other. I mean, let's just see what that does. Okay. And another thing too is that now that we have this batch size at 4, it's going to take a little bit longer to render all these every time I hit that generate button, because it's doing 4 every single time. And there's a few other settings too. After this one, I'm going to show you how to make it a little bit faster. So this had these extras, and since this is for an album cover, this is actually a decent ratio that we're building them in squares right now, 1024 by 1024. And that's pretty much what you would use for an album cover. So, right. So we can kind of stick with that. And then the other cool thing is that once we find like an aesthetic that you really like, we can take that same sort of aesthetic and then turn it into a video. So you could have an album cover and then have a video that looks like the album cover aesthetically. So here we go. Now we've got some hellfire going a little bit. This one's got some blue skies in the background at least. We might be losing a little bit of the dystopian stuff, although there's like a city here in the foreground, which is kind of cool. I don't really see a UFO, maybe on this one, but it almost looks like it's attached to the top of the pyramid. But do you have any thoughts on these ones? Are we warmer or colder versus the last one?
That's cool. Yeah, I mean, the first one, I'm thinking the first one is probably the best out of those.
This top left one?
Yeah, and I mean, it should be easy enough to just like add in a UFO or
yeah. So let's say that in the effort of time, because let's say that you sat here and you could just keep hitting generate 20 more times and keep getting more and more options, and eventually, as long as the general aesthetic is kind of on point, you're going to find something that you really like. So let's assume that that's this top left one. So the only thing it's missing is a UFO. So what we could do is craft this prompt a little bit more to emphasize UFO. But I'm not going to do that. I'm going to do some in painting, because I think in painting is probably the most helpful to teach. And it's the most powerful, and it seems overwhelming, but it's so easy. So top left one. So in here in Automatic 1111, by default, it shows you a little thumbnail for each thing it generated. So the first one's always going to be all 4 combined. But then if I go over here and click on an individual one, here's just this one image. And the other thing that you notice is right under here, this is all going to be the same except for this one this value right here that says seed. See that? 34071. You don't have to care what that means. If I click around through these different images, that's going to be the only thing changing between them is just the seed number and the sequential. See, that's 212, 211, 210, and then 209. So this is like this number. This is how many, if you max these all out at 9s, that's how many variations you could possibly create with this aesthetic without even changing any of the other settings. So basically an infinite number of these that you could have generated. Here's the one that we want. And then this little option that's got the little like doggy in a painting. It says send image and generation parameters to image tab. So right now we've been in this one tab called text to image, which does exactly what it sounds like. You put in text and you get out an image. This tab next to it is similar, except instead of having to describe something, which you still can, you can also just upload an image and then use that as like whatever the program interprets as what's in that image, make something else that's similar. So that's kind of what we're gonna do is by clicking that button, we're gonna send that over to this image to image. And just as it said, it's going to copy all the text that we originally had in the text to image. But on top of that, it's going to provide this guy. And normally, like this could be a way to make variations that look almost exactly like this one, just with like small little details. So I'm going to run one version of those, but we can go back to this original one if it looks good. So I'm going to again change the batch size to 4, so we get 4 versions.
Could you would like possibly you would put a picture, say you put a picture of a hang drum in there to show it, would that then make it realize
unfortunately not. What it would do is it would make another image that looks like that hang drum, but the AI model doesn't actually know what a hang drum is. It would just know that there's like shading here and there's highlights here and these certain shapes are there. But the training is a whole nother, that might be another good video that we can like, let's teach AI what a hang drum looks like, because God knows the only thing people are training AI right now is like what celebrities look like. So a hang drum would be a nice addition maybe. So and then this one, the only setting that didn't get copied over is this config scale. If you remember, I set it to like 5.001 just for the hell of it. This doesn't really matter. I'm gonna just leave this at the default of 7. Rule of thumb, I usually keep this between 5 and maybe like 9, but you can set it to anything you want and experiment. But normally you don't even have to touch this. 7 is like a really good value. And in a very brief overview, this config scale basically means like how important is what you're telling me, and almost at the detriment of the quality of the image. So if you crank this scale like all the way up, which you would never crank it this high up, but it would make sure that it looks like, whatever you're telling it, but it also might be a horrible, blurry, pixelated mess that just happens to fill some weird AI checkboxes in the background that make it think that it's doing really well, even though it kind of isn't. So long story short, leave that thing at 7. And then this one under it is the denoising strength. This one's actually really important. So denoising strength, if I bring it down to 0, and this is specific to this image to image right now, it's basically not going to change at all. If I hit generate right now, it's going to make 4 identical versions of this pyramid. And if I crank this all the way up to 1, it's going to make 4 images that look absolutely nothing like this. You might get a cartoon character falling out of a car or something, right? Like completely different. So everywhere in between those two things is how much variation you want. So as a really rough example, I'm going to set this to like 0.3, which is saying like don't change very much of it. And then I'm just going to leave exactly what we had here in the prompt. I can also delete all this if I really wanted to, and then just force the AI to kind of figure out what it's looking at. But you kind of want to help it along a little bit so that it, you get to the result you want. So this is just a really quick example of how you can take, oh, I think I really like this, and then see 4 variations of that thing until in case you like a little variation of it even more than that, And then, this is gonna. So the first thing it does is it interrogates this image, and image interrogation basically means it tries to generate, like it doesn't show you what it is, but it's going to try to determine what prompt it would need to create in order to remake this image, and then it like feeds itself that prompt. So, and I can already see that they're very similar to each other, and because we only had this at 0.3 down here on denoising strength, it's only going to vary, let's say like 30% ish. That's a horrible oversimplification of what's happening, but so here we go. So here's a version, and let me just like click through some of these. So the difference is like, see this thing on the left, it almost looks like a lightning strike. It's kind of like jagged on the bottom of it, and it's striking like right in the middle of the pyramid. If we go to the next one, it's a little bit more feathered, and it's not touching the edge of the pyramid. It's a little bit over to the left. It also looks like
less buildings on one.
Less buildings, and this pyramid in the background. See, like the angle is almost dead center in the middle, and then if we go to the next one, it's kind of off to the side a little bit. So very, very subtle differences, right? And the top of this pyramid, this one doesn't have a cap. That one does have a cap, and this one also has a cap, but it's like a little bit more rounded. So not mind blowing. So then if we were to have done, like, I think this defaults at 0.75. This one might be a little bit too strong most of the time because it's going to completely deviate from the image you fed it. But again, sometimes if you're like, it's kind of close, but I want something totally different, that's a good thing, is to just pull it over into image to image and then crank this denoising strength anywhere over 0.5. So anywhere under 0.5 means it's going to look pretty much the same as you already saw, and anything over that is like, show me what you got. So let's see, this is almost done. 6 seconds left.
Cool.
And then these ones are still similar but wildly different. I'm waiting for all 4 of them to load, but you can see like this left one, it just like plumes of smoke in the background, but on this one it's like buildings go all the way out to the back. This one also has like a blue cap. That one's got a cap that's hovering. This one's connected. This almost looks like the meteor, maybe, because there's actually like some mass to this, almost like a big bullet or something. And you've got like multiple pyramids in the background. So you can see that a lot more has changed, even though it's still pretty similar to what we were looking at originally. So let me ask, do any of these ones stand out, or do you still like the original one that we started with?
I don't know, man. I mean, the original is probably good.
Okay, so let's just say, for sake of time, we wanted to go back to the original. Can always just go right back here and send it over to image again, and then there's the original image and the original prompt. So the problem originally that we were talking about is that there's no UFO in here, even though it's literally the first thing that we kind of wanted. It thinks there's a UFO in here because this is what it gave us, but it doesn't really understand that it's not in there, or maybe it's not in the place that we were expecting.
Maybe put flying saucer or
well, even better. Now we can be very specific, because you could put flying saucer, but then the problem is that it might create a completely different pyramid, a completely different background. Like, everything changes if you change anything at all in this prompt. Expect like the final result to be this is the butterfly flapping its wings in Thailand, KS effect style. But what we can do is, I'm gonna click on this in paint here, and I think there's an option to send it to it. So this little guy with the painting sends it to this image to image. There's another one called in paint, so that's this little palette. So it looks almost identical. All it did is it changed it from this image to image tab to this in paint tab. But the cool thing about the in paint tab is I've got this little brush. So let's make a brush about that big, and in this pyramid image on the right here, where would you want the UFO to be? Like top right? Do you want it in the middle?
What I was going to say. Yeah, top right. Yeah, I was
top right.
Top right. Why not?
So I'm just going to scroll over here to the top right of the image. And the only reason I'm having to do this is because I'm like zoomed in, so it's easier to see. Normally you don't have to scroll this at all. But here, I'm going to scroll over here. And let's say we want the UFO like right about here-ish.
Yeah, that's cool.
All right, so now I'm going to do is I'm just going to leave the UFO in here. And we can keep refining that, but I'm just going to the word UFO, just how easy it is to get from that. And the only other thing I'm going to change is that down here, this tells me in paint means like it's exactly what it sounds like. It's going to paint inside of that little shape that I just drew. That's in painting. And that little thing I drew is called the mask. So this is saying I want to I want you to paint inside that mask, or you can say paint outside that mask. So let's say you wanted to keep the pyramid but change everything in the background, then you could paint over the pyramid and say in paint not masked, and it does the opposite. But we want to paint inside that little shape we made. And then I'm also going to change this in paint area to only masked. The difference is that if we do whole picture, it's going to still regenerate the entire image again. And if we do that, you're going to lose just a little bit of detail. Whereas only masked, it's not going to touch the rest of the image. It's only going to touch this little mask area that we painted out up here in the top right. So recap, all I did was drew this little shape and I typed in the word UFO here to get rid of all the other stuff. All I did. I'm going to hit generate. And then let me just zoom out a little bit here. And let's see. And I still have this on a batch size of 4. So we're still going to get 4 versions of this pyramid with a UFO next to it to pick from.
All right. Is that it?
And then also once you feel pretty confident that you're like getting close to what you want, you can also just crank this batch size back down. So I'm going to change this back to 1. So that way the next time we hit generate, it'll take a quarter of the time that it's been taking.
All right.
So there's one. I can already tell there's a little bit of an issue where it like you can almost see the mask I drew. It's like blurry around the edges of it.
Yeah.
That one too. That one too. They all kind of have that blur going on. So and what it's doing is that it's just drawing a tiny UFO instead of a huge UFO. So maybe before I start tweaking other stuff, let's just do like a huge UFO and see if that even helps it at all. And again, I've got batch size to 1 now, so it should be about a quarter of the time between these. And then I'm just gonna. I don't think there's anything else I'd have to do. We could try to in-paint the whole picture, and that will kind of force it to redraw the very edges around this little UFO guy too. Let's see, we're like what 15 minutes in, so this is like 10 cents I think we've spent, something around there.
Oh, okay, that's cool.
There we go. So the huge UFO didn't necessarily do it. So now what I'm going to do is I'm going to change that setting I showed you a second ago and make it say whole picture and just show the difference between that. And now just, I usually will keep this up when I'm doing this and just wait for it to change because it'll be a little bit easier to tell. Because once this has gone off the screen, it's a lot harder to do like the A and B test and know exactly what's changed. This one should be pretty obvious though, because this big blurry patch should go away.
All right.
Where are we at? Oh, it just completely eliminated it that time.
Crazy.
So this might be a chance to actually set the batch size up back to 4 because there's a good chance that one of those 4 wouldn't have completely erased the UFO. But I'm also going to go back to paint only masked and let me zoom out here.
I was trying to think, is there a way to tell it to not, to like correct the blurry spot or whatever? Or yeah.
You can, but that you're at a certain point, you just start chasing little rabbit holes. The real problem, if you were to step back, third-party observer, is really that it kept wanting to draw this little UFO because if you kind of imagine what we're looking at, this building right here, like that UFO that we saw was still pretty huge. It was like the size of like, one of these skyscrapers essentially. So it was probably just trying to draw the UFO in like a scale that it thought was appropriate.
Right.
So I'm just going to make the area for the UFO just a little bit smaller. Maybe we'll just make it like this big. And then we're going to do another. And there's also this option down here for masking. or sorry, for kind of like feathering it, like the padding. So I might crank this down a little bit, and that'll just like with that this cranked up to extra pixels. Even though I drew this, it's actually going a little bit outside of this area. So let's just try generate again. And then another really good tip here too is that if there's something so specific where it's like the UFO looks good, the pyramid looks good, the only problem is there's this like little blurry haze around the edge, that's when we can send it back to image again. So if let's say if that happens again, that's what we're going to do to solve that. It's a lot of this AI stuff. It's more about problem solving, because it's usually, man, it looks so good except for that thing, or I just wish this thing was a little bit different. And the more control you can teach yourself to have over those little details, like it'll just make the process more rewarding, I think, and you get what you're actually going after.
Cool.
So let's see.
What
And we did
about
4
along, I
again.
guess along the same line, like say you want to just move that blue streak that's supposed to be like like if you want to just remove that, you would just send that over to the image to image again. Is that what you're saying?
Well, if we wanted to remove this blue streak, I would basically
Delete
actually we
column.
can do that next. That'll be a good example. So
All right.
first we've got these UFO guys. They
Right.
all still kind of have that blur area. This one actually looks pretty good because it turned the blur into like a glowing haze around it.
Yeah.
So I'm gonna just say like this one looks pretty decent.
Yeah,
So
that's
now
fine.
again, we're just gonna click on sending this to image. Or yeah, we're gonna send image first just to keep this kind of simple. So it'll take a second for the browser to update with all of it. There it is. And now I'm not going to put anything in this prompt, and I'm going to put this denoising strength down to like under 0.5 again, so like 0.4, and I'm just going to hit generate. And what it's going to do is it's going to just take what it thinks this image is and then generate 4 versions of it that are only going to deviate by roughly 40% or so. Again, I'm like throwing out numbers just because it sounds convenient. 0.4, 40%. It's not exactly the math. But what it's going to do is that now instead of this original that had this little mask around it that you can almost see like the hard edges, right? These like the very edge around here. Now it's going to redraw this, and in theory, as it redraws these edges, it's going to realize, oh, this element needs to be part of the rest of this image, like a cohesive part of it. So it'll probably like feather some of this hard outline a little bit better than it did when we did the in painting. So let's see. We're still waiting for it to cook.
All right.
I think cooking analogies work the best for AI too. Okay, so this one, it almost completely disappeared. You just have like almost like a bird. This one, it got a little bit blurry. This one, it disappeared completely. And this one, it just got like a little light thing. We can also see like the buildings turned into just rocks on some of this. So this is actually why it's good to keep this text in here sometimes. So if I were to just hit regenerate again, but now I'm giving it more information than just the image, because before we left AI to its own devices to figure out what all this stuff was, and clearly it didn't realize that these were buildings. So now this is just going to help it along, and this is just a good example of like how different it can be when you just help it a tiny little bit by just saying like, hey, by the way, here's what you're about to draw. Can make a drastic difference. And then after we make this one, I'll bring it into some video elements, and then I'll show you how to turn this into a video to fulfill my promise here. Does this sound good?
All right. Yeah, hell yeah.
Is it like so far, if you had to start over from scratch without me here and without the video, like how confident do you feel you could like spin this guy up and type something in and hit generate?
I think I'd be all right. Yeah, I mean, I think having the video to go back. I mean, I've been trying to make notes, but yeah, I know I'm not making adequate notes over here. But
Oh, and I'll show you something after this too, as we're winding down. Using another program that's not this automatic 1111, that's a little bit easier. This is the one that I always go to for now, just because it's got so many options. Believe it or not, there's ones that are like 10 times more advanced than even this one is. Okay, so now look at how much greater this thing does. Like, I'm so proud of it. Like, UFO doesn't have the weird haze. We still got buildings. The only thing we changed was we just gave it the original prompt again so that it didn't have to do too much guesswork. And I mean, all of these, no more haze around that one, no haze around that one, or that one. So
yeah, that was probably the coolest.
I agree, because I like how it has this like jagged landscape in the background. I don't know where that came from, but I'm here for it. I like it.
I didn't even notice that, but just I like the little light on the bottom. I think that's what that is.
So let's go with this one. So this is the last one that we got. I'm going to just go ahead and download this one as like a reference. So I'll hit the little download button. And now I'll just save it to like my local machine. Since I'm part of this creators club, which I do recommend, like I've got a backlog of all the images I've ever rendered using RunDiffusion, all in this images folder, and they're all date. They're all separated by date. So this makes it really, really convenient. But if you don't have Creator Club, then you can always just download this image. And the cool thing is that at any point you can go over to this PNG info tab, and if you load the image in that I just saved, if I can find it, let's see here. I actually don't remember where I said. Oh yeah, here it is. So I just loaded that image in that I just saved, and look over here on the right, or not. I wonder if that little download button does something to the image that I wasn't expecting. Hold on. PNG info. And all these too, by the way, the image to image and everything. If you ever hit this little X button, it'll just clear that image out. So like I'm going to clear this one out so that I can upload the other one I just downloaded, which is here. It actually might be a version difference, but normally when you upload an image to this PNG info, over here on the right, it'll show you exactly all this. Oh, there it is. I guess I was just being impatient. So
okay.
it just loaded the prompt that we typed in, the configuration scale, everything you would need to remake something that looks like this image is in here. Now, obviously, we did a bunch of in painting where we like selected the UFO and we kind of tweaked it. So this would only get you the original image that was this one right here. This very first thing we started with. But the cool thing is that inside that final image output, it kind of contains like the source code of what you need, right? This is like the sheet music basically of how you would remake this thing. So really awesome tip for that. So let's say that this is the one that we really like the most. So another of the things in here is Deforum tab. And this Deforum tab is actually, I'm gonna take exactly what we had here. Let's just say for the ease of argument, here's our album cover, right? Maybe we'll throw like a logo and text on here. That's gonna pretty much be Photoshop at this point to get legible text. There's ways to do AI, but it's not worth the effort, in my opinion. So we plop on. Do you have an album title in mind?
You just put "Hang Tight."
Okay, let's just imagine that it says "hang." That says "hang tight" right here.
Yeah,
so now let's say we want to have like an accompanying video that has the same aesthetic. It's not going to be this exact image with the UFO and everything, but it's going to take this same exact prompt. And I just want to show you how really easy it can be. So I'm going to go over to Deforum, and then in Deforum, lots of fields, but we just click on this one that says prompts, and then here is all these different keyframes. So I don't know if you're familiar with doing video editing at all, or how like video frames work.
Yeah, I do a little video editing. So
okay,
I have a drone that I'll make little music videos with that. But I've been wanting to do an AI one just because there's so many cool ones.
So a frame of reference then, if I go to this output tab, by default, this will be at 15 frames per second. So you're probably, most people that do video editing are used to like 30 frames a second, maybe 60 frames a second. Don't do that in AI, my opinion. Never do 30 or 60 or like pretty much anything higher than maybe 24. I honestly stay around 15 or 12. And then what you can do is at the very bottom of this guy, there's this frame interpolation setting. I mean, we're already using AI. Let's use AI like to the fullest. So out of all of these, I can select, say, like this Rife one. These are just different math algorithms essentially. But if I go here and I pick Rife, then I can basically say double the keyframes. So this 2 is going to be 2 times 12. So if we wanted it 24 frames per second, let's say we wanted it 30 frames per second, a little more convenient. So now it's going to generate a video at 15 frames per second, but then when it's done, it's going to review everything and then double that, or quadruple it if you want. Now we can get 60 frames per second if we did times 4. It's going to take a lot longer. So I'm just going to set this down. Actually, I'm going to leave this at none right now, just so I don't want to wait for like a year for this thing to come out. So the reason I brought this over here, here's your frames per second is 15. So in the prompts, these are the frames. So on frame 0, we're going to change all this, but it says, tiny cute bunny, and then on frame 30, frame 60, frame 90. So essentially every at 15 frames per second, every 2 seconds it's going to change. So here's the first 2 seconds, here's the second 2 seconds, so on. Now, to make things easy, and I actually do this all the time when I'm doing a full video, I just set frame 0 to be the thing that I want. And I went over here and I copied that prompt that we were happy with, and then I just go back over here and make that the prompt and that quote right there. And that's it. And then I also leave this in here. Just long story short, lots of AI. It's very easy to get boobs out of, even if you don't want them there. So it's good general practice to just put like not safe for work and nude in this negative prompt. And the negative prompt is exactly what it sounds like. It's the opposite of what you want. So if you ever generate something and you're like, how come I keep getting boobies? Or how come I keep getting, fire in the background? You can just start putting the things that you don't want into this negative prompt, and it'll try to steer away from those things. So all we did was change this prompt and set it to only be this 0 frame. And all this means is that at frame 0, it's going to use this as its prompt, and that's never going to change. And it's just going to keep using that as its prompt along the way. So you can kind of see, like, if I really wanted at 2 seconds in, or at like 300 frames in, which would be what, like 20 seconds, then I could say, angel or whatever, or type out a whole nother long prompt, majestic ocean scene and pirates or whatever. Again, we don't want that, but that's all you would have to do is just set it in there. Okay, at like 5 seconds in or 10 seconds in, I want it to go from a UFO cyberpunk dystopia to an old world pirate ship, and it would kind of like slowly blend from one to the next. We're not going to do that. We're going to keep it simple. So here we go. We've got it 15 frames a second. We're using that prompt. The only other thing that I have to do is set the keyframes. So 120. Let's just do some. Normally, I promise no math. This isn't going to be too bad. So 120 frames, 15 frames a second. So that's going to give us 8 seconds worth of video. I don't want to wait that long, so I'm going to just do 45. So we'll get like 3 seconds of video on this first run. And just imagine if we wanted to just like sit back and wait a couple hours, like you could just start adding zeros, bud. But I mean, now you're talking about letting this thing run like over a weekend, maybe, depending on how long you want this. So I don't want to wait too long. I'm going to set it at 45. So I'm not even going to change anything else. Good.
This program that we're on right now, so you run it, say you leave it, you come back the next day, like 12 hours, 24 hours. What would that would cost you, like what, a few bucks or something?
So it's 50 cents an hour, although the one that I'm using right now is $1.25 an hour. So if you were to run this for an entire day, it's about $30 or so. Now, also, if you're like, oh, what if I walked away and I forgot? See this thing at the top? We've only got 10 minutes left, and it's going to shut itself off unless I click this extend button, And then here it even shows you, like, I've got, you know, $24 balance. This $24 is going to last me a long time because I'm in that creator club. Every month they just add another $10 to this thing, so it kind of pays for itself if you actually use all the time on it. But I've got this set to, you know, I can say 2 hours, 3 hours. So
Cool.
if you know that it shouldn't take too long, or if it takes a certain long time, it'll just stop. Speaking of the devil, you know, it's like, hey, dude, you got 10 minutes left. I'm going to say, fine. If we can't get this done in 10 minutes, then we'll do it another time.
That's cool.
Okay, so I'm just since time is of the essence, the other thing I'm going to change is I just prefer the 3D animation mode to the 2D. Personal preference, but I'm just going to change that right now. Oh no, what did I do? I hope when I clicked extend it didn't do something. Let's hopefully. So I'm just going to hit generate now. And then I really have no idea how long this particular process is going to take, because we don't get reasonable feedback about like the frames it's running, unless you go in and look at like logs and stuff. But let's just see if this pops up. And then while this is generating, I'll use this opportunity to just, in case you care about like the inner guts, I'm not going to explain any math. Trust me, I don't like the math aspect of any of this stuff. This is the original paper that most people reference. I found the original one, and I just want to show you a couple of the things here. First of all, these are two AI faces, the really obvious giveaways, but if you don't know what to look for, you might not notice it. Lots of,
I'm looking
crazy
I'm on
math.
my phone right now. I can't really tell from
Well, and that's going to be a certain point too, is that now you can't tell on your phone, but even if you look up close at a certain point in the very near future, even that won't matter. So, okay, I'm going to do my best to explain, like, I guess the process of how the AI works and why it's called Stable Diffusion. And the one before this was Disco Diffusion. There's just a lot that are like blank diffusion, is a lot of this image generation. So let's say you do image, like if you ever use Photoshop before, there's a have you used Photoshop before?
Yeah, I'm really not good at that. I've not put in the time with that at all.
Well, okay. Yeah. So do you know what, like, if you were to take a digital photo and it has a lot of noise in it, like, would you be able to recognize that? So, like, see on the left here, I don't know if I can zoom in more. So on the left, this stochastic process, long story short, it just means an organic, natural seeming change over time. It's modeled on how nature changes over time, Brownian motion, how molecules move around and stuff. But on the left here, it's got an image of a bedroom on the top and an image of a bedroom on the bottom. And when it first started all the way on the left, they were completely in focus and clear. And then the more this thing goes over to the right, it's basically making it more and more pixelated until it's just like a big jumbled mess of different colored pixels, almost like complete static on like an old television, right? So what they're doing is they'll take these images that they already have, it's a bedroom, and they keep adding all this noise to it, and they keep telling the computer, hey, you're still looking at a bedroom, you're still looking at a bedroom. And they just say, like, but the bedroom is just being distorted by X amount. And you do this with billions and billions of images. It takes lots of money and lots of time. And this is what the big corporations are doing, is they're just feeding it all these things, and you have to describe exactly what's in it. So here we go. So you can kind of see on the left hand side, see how it starts as something recognizable and then it turns into something unrecognizable. So once they've trained the computer to kind of understand what's changing over time, they just run the exact damn thing in reverse. And now you can start with what looks like complete noise nonsense and then steer it and say, no, what you're looking at is a bedroom, or what you're looking at is a dystopian UFO pyramid with fire on the ground. And then as it starts like becoming less and less noisy, it'll generate that image that you're looking for. So really, behind the hood, all this AI image generation stuff is doing, it's taking a blurry image and making it sharper and sharper over time, or taking a noisy image and making it less and less noisy over time. So that's the easiest way to kind of understand how it's working. You don't even have to know how that is working, but
I've messed around with data moshing a little bit. It almost sounds like that, but like data moshing, it's super pixelated. Like I like the idea of like have it look really crystal clear, but like, you know, so it's almost like an hallucination, you know?
Right, and honestly, that's one of the original names for Google's version of this. Man, I can't remember the name of it, but it was like surreal dream or something. Someone in the comments will probably point it out. I'll think of it like 5 minutes after we're done here. Okay, we've got 4 minutes left. Is this done yet? No. See, it's already been running for almost 5 minutes, and it's still not done yet. I
It's gonna
might
go for
extend this.
at least 11 minutes because you only got 10 minutes left. So.
Yeah, I mean, I'll extend it just for the purpose so that it doesn't completely crap out, and then I can upload it after we're done. It honestly shouldn't take very long, but let's say it's gonna take another half hour. It's gonna be 75 cents to wait another half hour. So I'm just gonna hit confirm here. And now bam, now we bought a little bit more time. We won't run through this all live because this is pretty much where the tutorial would kind of end, because if you like how this looks, then we would just bump the frames up and then you wait even longer, right? You wait 10 times longer or 100 times longer or 1,000 times longer. And then if you don't like how it looks, I'll just show you some of the settings that are worth tweaking, but really it would go into this strength schedule. This is sort of like in that previous number I showed you, where it was like if it was 0.3, it would not change very much, very subtle, and we changed it to 0.7, and then you were getting like slightly bigger changes between the two. This is sort of the same, except this is how much during the video the next frame is going to respect the previous frame. So right now at 0.65, like if I were to set this to like 0.15, it's basically like don't even care, like care about 15% about what the last frame looked like versus what the next frame you're looking like now is. And that's when you're getting a bunch of like weird jumbly AI, and some people like that. Some people like this weird like fluttery effect where almost every frame is slightly different than the next and it's always constantly changing. This defaults to 0.65 because that gives you enough freedom for the AI to change the next frame, but it also keeps a little bit of continuity. If it's still changing more than you want, then you can start bumping this number up more and more to like 0.75, 0.85. Although once you start getting to this range, close to 1, what you're basically saying is like, don't change the image. So you'll have a video technically, but it'll just be like a 4-second video of the exact same image for all the frames. So this is really the biggest one that I find makes a difference if you're tweaking it. And if anything, I usually make this a little bit smaller. I'll usually go down to like 0.5 instead of 0.65. And that's really the only main thing that I tend to change on this thing. I also want to point out this entire time, we've just been using the built-in RunDiffusion XL model in this top left dropdown. We didn't even go into any of these other settings. If I click on this thing, these are all the different models that we had to pick from this whole time. So, for example, if you wanted it to look like a cartoon, we could have picked this cartoon 3D one. This right here, Protogen V22, this makes anime style. Maybe you wanted something that looked like incredibly realistic. There are some in here that are made specifically, like Reality Check XL. This one is trained on like high resolution photography, 4K, 12K photographs, versus some of these like the anime one, as it sounds like they pretty much trained it all on anime images. That same process that I was just showing you here with like these rooms. Just imagine that someone did this with 10,000 pictures of dogs or 10,000 pictures of whatever, and then that's kind of where some of these models come from. Is they all represent whoever spent all that time to train it, like what exactly they fed into it. So the one that's by default, RunDiffusion XL, it's kind of a general all-purpose one. It's a little bit good at doing everything, but if you know exactly the aesthetic you want, you can really hone in and pick like the exact model that would kind of cater to that. So that was a lot. So I just want to see if you got any questions else.
Yeah, no, then it would be like the same, like all these tabs on this would you'd still follow the same process. It would just, it's kind of like giving it a different lens or whatever.
Yeah, and you last time we talked, we were talking about like digital drum kits, right? Like BFD and addictive drums and stuff. So just like in addictive drums, and this might be a real niche reference for anyone that does like audio production, but like addictive drums, you can go out and get like the Fab 5 pack, and now it sounds like the drums that the Beatles used, or you can get like the 80s rock band pack, and it would just be the same as like going down a drop list and being like, oh, I want Beatles today. Like you're still going to get snare drum and kick drum and hi-hat, but it's going to have a very specific aesthetic to it, based on the type of equipment being used. So it's the same thing with here. It's like you're still going to get the UFO and the pyramid and the dystopia, but if you also want it to kind of look cartoony, you can add cartoony to this prompt. But that's going to be nowhere near as powerful as someone that's specifically made an entire model based on that. Like Comic Diffusion, this one's trained on like Western comic books. So if you're not a fan of anime and you want to see like X-Men and stuff, maybe you'd pick that Comic Diffusion one. So
that's pretty cool.
I have no idea how far this Deforum is going to be. We're already at 10 minutes waiting on it. So what I'll do is we'll wrap up the interview for now, and then I'll just play the video at the end of this so everyone can see it. I'll send it to you, obviously. Cool. But I don't want to just keep stretching the time out waiting for this thing if it's going to be like another 20 minutes. So I just want to, this is a great time to make this point. It is worth every second you spend curating and just tweaking these prompts and picking the right model until you get the image that you really, really want. Because the second you want to bring this over into the video world, I mean, we were waiting, I don't know, at best like 10 seconds between each image, but now we're going to be generating 45 images and then splicing them all together via video. And it's doing a little bit of interpolation where it's like checking the previous image and applying it to the next. So that process times 45, it just takes a little while. So it's really good to get exactly what you want as a still image and then finally go over to video. Because the worst thing ever is you wait all this time and it comes out and then you're like, oh, I don't like that because, whatever reason.
I'm sure, yeah, it happened.
So I'm curious, in all honesty, give me like a confidence rating. If you didn't even have this video, if you were to just like load this screen up, like what would you know what to do? Would you at least know where to start making UFOs?
I think my memory is good enough that I should be able.
Okay.
I've definitely learned a lot here, but I'm pretty sure I'd retain a lot of it.
And I don't know if I can I'll try right now. I don't know if I can run multiple RunDiffusions at the same time.
You saved me some trial and error, I'm sure, because like you were saying, like don't go over what was it, 9, or don't go once you go under 3, or what, like you're pointing out on these certain bar. I'm sure once I see it again, I'll jog my memory. But like I'm sure figuring that type of stuff out, it's just trial and error,
So unfortunately I can't run multiple instances, or at least I don't know how to run multiple instances of RunDiffusion at the same time. I'll do that in another video. There's another website I use when I want to have like 3 or 4 of these running, because as you can see, like you're not doing anything now. All this is generating video. I can't even go into one of these other prompts and hit generate, or you could, but you don't want to interrupt this process or cause it to fail, because then all that time was for naught. What I think I can do though is I can go into images, and then this Deforum. This is an older one, this Deforum one. But you can actually see all the individual images that it's creating. This is one that I made for my Occult Disney podcast. Let me just see. Let's see. What is today? The 23rd? Yeah. So here's all the images that we had rendered already. And I'm not sure where it's putting all of the... Oh, actually, I do know. Normally in this output section, I make sure to... Okay, it's keeping the images. So this option right here, delete images, usually on. So this will save all of the frames once it's done rendering most of them. I just don't think that they're going to be in here until it's ready to go. So anyways, I'm going to wrap that up for now. Hang around. We'll talk a little bit after this. And I'm going to play this one out with a advertisement for Homunculus Owner's Manual.
They said it was forbidden. They said it was dangerous. They were right. Introducing the paranoid American Homunculus Owner's Manual. Dive into the arcane, into the hidden corners of the occult. This isn't just a comic. It's a hidden tome of supernatural power. All original artwork illustrating the groundbreaking research of Juan Ayala, one of the only living homunculologists of our time. Learn how to summon your own homunculus, an enigma wrapped in the fabric of reality itself, their power at your fingertips, their existence, your secret. Explore the mysteries of the Aristotelian, the spiritual, the Paracelsian, the Crowleyan homunculus, ancient knowledge lost to time, now unearthed in this forbidden tale. This comic book holds truths not meant for the light of day, knowledge that was buried, feared, and shunned. Are you ready to uncover the hidden? The Paranoid American Homunculus Owner's Manual, not for the faint of heart. Available now from Paranoid American. Get your copy at tjojp.com or paranoidamerican.com today.